Jim Jordan, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, uncovered a stunning, startling, despicable scandal. The federal government was targeting conservatives, specifically with financial institutions. If you use language like Trump or make America great, or, well, I'll let him explain it during this appearance with Sean Hannity.
Congressman, sorry to ask the selfish question first, but I feel my privacy has already been invaded. It's why I've not had an email account for years and years and years, because, it seems like, the government's perfectly fine releasing my private text messages with Paul Manafort, my private text messages with people that work for the government, my private text messages on January 6th. So I don't really have privacy. How are they trying to? They were censoring me. Our government was involved in this. Do I have any recourse for this?
Well, we've introduced legislation, Senator Paul and I, that would give you some recourse and would hold these people accountable. So that's a legislative remedy that we're pursuing. But here's the real takeaway. The censorship industrial complex was bigger than we thought. It wasn't just big government working with big tech to limit your speech and limit Twitter or tweet and post on Facebook. It was big government, big universities, and big tech all working together to limit speech. And it was disproportionately, as you listed off all those conservatives, disproportionately targeting conservatives. Molly Hemingway, Sean Hannity, President Trump, members of Congress. You can go down the list. That's who they went after. And here's the kicker. It was all true stuff. Or some cases it was satire. It was a joke. But it was all true. And yet they went after it in this organized fashion where they limited how the reach it would have, the visibility filtering they did, and they took things down. That's how egregious this was.
Let's turn now to Jim Jordan's Twitter feed yesterday, where he acknowledged and put out a letter specifically about the federal government and these financial institutions, as I mentioned. We now know the federal government flagged terms like MAGA and Trump to financial institutions if Americans completed transactions using those terms. What was also flagged, if you bought a religious text like a Bible. I just bought a Bible yesterday. Am I on some list now? Yeah, if you bought a religious text like a Bible or shopped at Bass Pro Shop, the federal government flagged your activities. Let's see if you can see this letter. I'll read it to you. To Mr. Noah Bishop, AML officer, Plaid Incorporated, the company on the Committee on the Judiciary, the Select Committee of the Weaponization of the Federal Government, conducting an oversight of the federal law enforcement receipt of information about American citizens without legal process and its engagement with the private sector. Upon the documents obtained by the committee and the select subcommittee, we believe that you, as the former director of the Office of Stakeholder Integration and Engagement in the Strategic Operations Division of the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, that would be FinCEN. That right there is an example that our federal government is way too big, that we have an agency with that name. Possesses information necessary for our oversight. We ask that you appear for a transcribed interview. Let's just jump right down here. The committee and select subcommittee have obtained documents indicating that following January 6, 2021, FinCEN distributed materials to financial institutions that, among other things, outline the typologies of various persons of interest and provide financial institutions suggested search terms and merchant category codes for identifying transactions on behalf of federal law enforcement. These materials include a document recommending the use of generic terms like Trump and MAGA, and search Zelle payment messages, as well as prior FinCEN analysis of lone actor homegrown violent extremism indicators. In other words, if you purchase something and utilize Zelle or Venmo or some other money transferring software or app, and you were purchasing something that had the word MAGA in it or Trump in it, you got flagged and that transaction got extra scrutiny. They're treating you like you're Al-Qaeda. I know I'm going to sound naive. And I know I'm going to sound like, the Reagan Republican that I am. Morning in America, shining city on a hill, believing in America's greatness that I came of age with as a young Reaganite, very young. But I truly, truly never thought that the agencies of our federal government would, with such gusto, be turned against the American people. And I want to be clear about something here, because I don't want to overstate the case. But you look at what we've learned about the FBI investigating people if they go to traditional Latin mass, or if they're an angry parent that goes to a school board meeting. And you learn about agencies advising banks to give extra scrutiny to financial transactions that use the words MAGA or Trump, or if they're purchases from Bass Pro Shops or religious texts and literatures. Let's be clear here. Please listen to my words precisely. Every single action like this that is shot through the law enforcement powers of the federal government, FBI, DOJ, financial institutions backed by the Justice Department, every single one of these actions is backed up with the implied threat of violence. Do you hear what I'm saying? You see, when the FBI or a federal law enforcement officer of any kind reaches out to you and asks to question you or asks to detain you or wants to bring you in for one reason or another, if you refuse to comply, they have the right to use violence against you, right? That's sort of baked in the cake. They carry a badge, they carry a gun. You're supposed to follow their lawful orders, and if you don't, they can hurt you. So when they do things like this, the message is clearly sent to the American people that the guns that we pay for with our tax dollars are directed right back at us. They see us as the criminals. They see us as the problem. They see us, when they do things like this, as the enemy. And yet at the same time, they warn that if Donald Trump is allowed to be on the ballot, then authoritarianism will make its way into the federal government. Are they listening to themselves? Who in the hell are the authoritarians here? Seriously.